This video is a summary of a recent presentation that I gave at the Melvin Belli Seminar on Trial Practices in San Jose. Everyone in this audience has been told at countless MCLA events and seminars that we live in a visual world where jurors and others learn best in a visual manner. The question then becomes for all you is how best to create those visuals. Today I will help with that task and give you ideas on how best to do that. My name is Morgan Smith, and I'm an attorney who tried many PI cases with the Arns Law Firm for 17 years, which resulted in many million and multi-million-dollar verdicts. However, my passion was always in visual expression and being creative. I found that I was happiest at work when I was getting ready for trial, and I would create all my own graphics. The expression of legal issues in a visual manner is open to endless creative possibilities with a primary and overriding goal of imparting understanding and information. In 2009, I made a life-changing decision and took my family around the world for a year-long trip, and while away, I made the decision to not go back to litigation. When I returned, I decided to open my company, Cogent Legal, to pursue the creative combination of law and design. Learning what can be done and what should be done with graphics are important for everyone, and the goal of today is to give you some simple ideas of ways in which you can build the visual foundation of your case to have better trial graphics when the time comes. I'm going to talk about my three-part recommendation that builds this visual foundation throughout the case, where each piece furthers the prior work done, and you end up with a powerful, admissible demonstrative for the trial of the case. I will only be focusing on PI cases for this presentation, but the same analysis can apply for most any type of case. First of all, starting with before a deposition. The basis of any visual display at trial should really start before the first deposition has ever been taken. We are all familiar with the typical documents we have on a case when it first starts, with the prime example being the police report, with perhaps a close to useless sketch that may or may not have anything to do with the accident. This document is not a good basis to start your visual foundation. If you're lucky, you might even get a decent drawing with some measurements when a serious accident has occurred. However, this also is not a great document to start as a visual foundation of your case. At an absolute minimum, obtaining a Google Earth or Google view of maps is a good way to have a better visual sense of the scene. However, they are often grainy, they may not show the conditions that existed at the time, and often have way too much visual information of unrelated things that make them confusing. Since you are basically taking a screenshot from the computer, they do not blow up well, and they do not translate well into large exhibits that you're ultimately going to want for trial. For about the cost of a couple of depositions, you can accurately incorporate all of the police data, if you have it, into the diagram. These diagrams are generally, and should, be created in programs like Adobe Illustrator that create vector art. This basically means that the diagram can be zoomed in up to a close view, and you have very tight detail on all of the lines, unlike, say, a Google map image that gets worse and worse as you zoom in. Or you can zoom out to an overall view with no loss of quality and have a great sense of the overall scene. Basically, you can print these diagrams from a letter size or to a poster board with the same quality and look to them. Now, once you have this scale diagram, you can then start to build the visual foundation of your case. First of all, you can have all witnesses mark on the same diagram what they recall seeing or where they were. This allows you to later make an overlay with markings for every witness on the same diagram for trial so that you can compare what different people said about the incident. Secondly, you are giving the witnesses a fair and unbiased view of the scene so that they are less likely to say later that they did not recall the details. Now that the key depositions are done in the case, you have done your expert a huge service to make his or her life better. You have developed a consistent and scaled system to track what each of the witnesses' key location testimony is, and the expert can then help develop their opinions about the movement of the vehicles, the people, or other things that are important for your case. A pretty standard output by an expert is a recreation with something called PC Crash or a similar program where the expert uses the simulation program to plug in all the data and develop a simulation of the incident. When you've laid a visual foundation with diagrams, you can then overlay the PC crash outputs into the diagram and simply add in the vehicles to match the expert's movements that he has determined. You can then give this overlay copy to the expert for view, and they can determine by the way that it's been created that it's accurate, to scale, and matches their opinions. Once this has been done, you can remove the overlay, and you have a great output you can use for mediation, or you can print it out, you can put it on a screen, or you can make it into a poster board. Any of them are possible, and you have nice, high-quality graphics that have a full foundation for everything that you've done. The next thing to consider for mediation and building your visual foundation are simple storyboards that can be drawn in any different type of manner, but basically summarize complex deposition testimony into simple visual summaries of what happened or should have happened. Taking complex information and making it visual and understandable will allow the mediator to understand the case better and to let all sides know you are ready for trial. Because the good news is that if you don't settle the case, and you've developed this visual foundation, you are ready for trial. However, if you want to take it one step further to get ready for trial, once you have all these diagrams filled out and your storyboards done, and the expert has done their work, they can take the data, and this can all be translated into a 3D animation for trial that has a foundation and a basis for admissibility. While I'm certainly a fan of 3D animations, you have to be careful of their limitation. The main limitation is that you are locked into a version of the incident once it is created, which means that it is so important to do this legwork that I have described before in terms of with the witnesses and with your expert to make sure that you've got a full foundation for anything that's going to be shown at trial. Once you have that, you can then develop a very powerful 3D animation that shows the incident from any perspective that you want to show it from. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that when you're dealing with trial issues, that visualizing the injury is also tremendously important for these type of cases. This can take the form of enhancing medical images themselves, which is something that I highly recommend. We need to remember that lay jurors often do not understand what they are looking at when they are looking at medical images like x-rays or MRIs, and so simple enhancement to be able to show what they're looking at is very important. The other thing to consider is a basic timeline that goes through the events of the case and shows some of the key treatments and issues in the case in a chronological way that people can understand. This is something that is simple to create and can be done in many forms and can really help lay out your case when you are getting ready for trial. Now for a quick bonus round, I also want to mention some of the things that you should make sure never to do when you are getting ready for your presentation at trial. This is an example from the NSA files that were obtained about a year ago. And this first image is one of their original images of a PowerPoint that was prepared by the government. And it really is a perfect example of everything not to do. It has way too many colors, it is busy, it is unclear what the point is, and it is simply something that you don't want to look at. Now here is an example that was done by a designer that took the original information and designed it in a way that is much more pleasing. The key issue here is control of colors so that you don't have too much going on, and simplify whatever it is you're showing. I want to thank you for listening to this presentation. If you have any questions about anything that has been said in this presentation, please do not hesitate to give us a call, and we're happy to talk. Thank you.